As many of us know, the cost of fuel is a big component of travelling. Whether you're travelling solo, travelling with a camper trailer or travelling with a caravan, you've got to buy fuel no matter where you're going. So what 4x4 Australia and Camper Trailer Australia and Caravan World decided to do is get together and we'd do a big fuel consumption test. We designed a circuit down through Horsham and back to Dimboola. It was 130 kilometres, which gave us the opportunity to drive the vehicles with over a variety of road conditions. The 130k loop was starting at a service station in Dimboola where we could fill up with diesel, with petrol and with LPG. We wanted to test each fuel type, that's diesel, petrol and LPG, with nothing on the tail. We wanted to do a test loop with a camper trailer on the tail for each fuel type, and we wanted to do a test loop with a caravan on the back with each fuel type. We had a cub camper trailer which weighed around about 900 kilograms, and we had an on-the-move Storm caravan which weighed just under 2 tonne, which is obviously within the limit for the vehicles we chose, 2 Toyota Hiluxes. Toyota's all-aluminium 4-litre V6. It's not as popular in Hilux or Prado as it once was. It's still not a bad buy second-hand. Resale values on this vehicle are actually a little bit, they're a little bit more affordable than the equivalent diesel, which is a 3-litre. All-aluminium, this one is fitted with an aftermarket electronically managed LPG injection system, which means better economy and low overall running costs. The second engine we've got this week on this fuel consumption test is Toyota's well-respected 3-litre D4D diesel. This is an older engine design than the class average at the moment. It debuted in 2005, so it is 9 years old. It is, however, well-respected, good longevity, 126 kilowatts. It doesn't have the horsepower of some of the other cars in its class, but it does a good job, it really does. One of the reasons we chose Toyota Hiluxes for this fuel test comparison is the fact that it's one of the few dual cab utes that's still available with a petrol engine. Most dual cab utes are diesels these days. Another reason we chose Hiluxes is the fact that it's a very popular tow car. It's actually one of the biggest selling vehicles in Australia of any type. We arrived in Dimboola, we set up camp. We got a campfire going, as you do when you're in the bush, and we all sat round looking forward to the next few days of testing under it was a nice night, nice starry skies. It was really good. The next morning when we woke up though, it was raining. It sort of dampened our spirits a little bit, but we only had 2 days to do this task, so we got on with it. Obviously we're out there in the real world. We've got to deal with roadworks, we've got to deal with weather. We had to deal with traffic. What we did was design the loop so there was several sets of traffic lights. If we got stopped at the traffic lights, fine, but if we didn't get stopped at the traffic lights, we actually replicated 30 seconds of idling. Obviously we couldn't have one loop done with no traffic lights and another loop done with all the traffic lights, because that's going to affect our fuel use. Weather's crap. One of the things we wanted to do was have one driver for this test, because different driving styles can actually affect fuel consumption. I did all the driving, 9 laps of our little loop over 3 days. It was somewhere around about 1,300 kilometres of driving, so it was a pretty solid job. Doing a fuel consumption test, you've got to have a very accurate way to measure the fuel. There can be an error introduced if you don't fill the vehicles properly to begin with, and if you don't fill the vehicles at the end of the test. So we made quite certain the vehicles were full. We in fact were shaking the vehicles to get every last litre of petrol and diesel into the vehicles. Quite often when you fill a vehicle to the first stop, if you give it a few seconds, it'll burp up at you. If you're travelling, that's not a bad way of actually getting extra fuel into the car, but for us here, that was the way of ensuring that the fuel tanks were actually full to the same level before and after the test. LPG, we couldn't do that because it goes in as a liquid and it's set by the Bowser. We started the vehicles full and we finished the vehicles full, which means that we know exactly how much fuel we've used around our little 130 kilometre loop. Well, after our 3 days of driving around and around in circles, we crunched the numbers. Not surprisingly, diesel was the most economical fuel used on the test. Without anything on the back, our diesel Hilux used 9.2 litres per 100, which gave us a total fuel cost of $14.90 per 100 kilometres travelled. The petrol, 14.5 litres per 100, $22.75 to run that car for 100 kilometres. LPG, LPG, you do use more fuel when you're running an LPG, but the ownership costs or the cost of the fuel can be a little bit less. 19.7 litres per 100 for a per 100 kilometre figure of $18.30. After that, we put a camper trailer on the rear of each of the Hiluxes. Diesel, 12.6 litres per 100 kilometres, $20.40 it'll cost you to tow a camper trailer about 100 k's. Petrol, 19 litres per 100, $29.81 per 100 kilometres travelled. LPG, 23.8 litres per 100 kilometres. Once again, you do use a little bit more LPG. $22.11 to tow a camper trailer 100 kilometres. Caravan. Caravans are usually bigger, they're usually heavier, they take a bit more energy to actually pull through the atmosphere. So it's no surprise that we used a bit more fuel towing the caravan than we did with the other two configurations. 19.1 litres per 100 k's towing your caravan on diesel, just a little bit more than $30 per 100 k's. Petrol, 25.8 litres per 100, $40.48. LPG, 34.7 litres per 100. We're starting to get up here, aren't we? $32.23 per 100 kilometres. It's no surprise why diesel is such a popular fuel for towing. You do use less of it. So yeah, it costs you less at the Bowser. What a lot of people don't take into consideration is the running costs of a diesel. And also if you're on a budget and buying second-hand, diesel second-hand four-wheel drives really hold a price premium. So one of the reasons we included LPG in this comparison was to prove that LPG is a viable fuel. Buying a second-hand petrol wagon or dual cab and converting it to LPG gets your running costs to within 10% of towing with diesel, which is really worth considering.